Hey guys, Dylan from the Geek Duo here, and today I'll bring you my reaction to Doctor Who Season 1, Episode 8, titled Empire of Death. The Doctor has lost, and evil reigns supreme, but one woman holds the key to saving creation. Now that sounds like a very Martha Jones synopsis, the girl who walked the world, and I did make a comment in the last episode about Triad Technologies basically seeming like Harold Saxon. And I don't know if it was intentionally related to that, because there have been a lot of callbacks to mainly the original, well, Doctor Who Classic, but there has been some revival tie-ins, so I don't know if that's meant to be parallels or not. Speaking of the last episode, I don't know how I managed to mix up Hillary Clinton and Theresa May with the whole awkward dance thing as she was walking out to the camera. I don't know how I did that. Also, I don't have many notes like I said I was going to do at the end of the last episode, other than, well, obviously, so Sutekh comes from the 4-part Pyramids of Mars special, which was 4 25-minute episodes. He basically overpowered the Doctor, used him as his plaything. The Doctor had to push him into a time corridor, which is apparently meant to age you infinitely. Like, basically trap you in time for all eternity. And apparently there was a comic or web something where Sutekh actually escaped by moving sideways into the void between realities, or whatever it's called. Again, my brain blanks at the start of these. And teaming up with the other gods that are found there to come back and antagonize the Doctor, making deals to bring them with him. And what do we have in this season so far? Sutekh seemingly having escaped the time corridor, latched onto the TARDIS at the point where it was at the edge of reality, as close to the gaps between universes as it can be, because that was the first episode where we saw Susan Twist, and the first time it made that groaning noise that we associate with Sutekh. I think my camera's gone. Hang on. Yeah, I don't know what was happening there. It seemed like a little glitch. Anyway, appears at the edge of reality where the space is the weakest, latches onto the TARDIS. Several other gods have shown up afterwards. It's only when I'm actively recording. Hang on. Okay, I've completely restarted my recording program. If it keeps happening, you're just going to have to deal with that for the rest of the video. I can't exactly get a new camera at the moment, considering it's 3 a.m. But, yeah, he's brought a whole bunch of new gods with him. And we know that with the Shulker Doctor being canonized, that these expanded media stories are being canonized, or at least elements are being brought into canon. So, who knows if they're going to explain it the same way, but that could be how it happened. Anyway, let's get into the episode in 3, 2, 1, go. I also don't know if these glitches are even happening on the actual video or if it's just on my end, because that does happen sometimes. Oh yeah, it also explains why the Doctor just completely froze at realizing it was Sutek is the sheer power that Sutek has. Though an issue I have is he's in Osiren, which is basically what the Egyptian gods in universe are based off of. And Set, who is also what Sutek goes by, is the son of Osiris. So how can Sutek be the father, the mother, and the other of all gods if he himself is the son of a god? Ah, that would probably be the sandstorm that we saw the Doctor running from in the trailer. Hmm. Can't exactly blow the dust if you're being fired at. Cause hey, the Lynx has lasers. Lynx. You know, at this point, Ruby, move around. Uh, they better not all die. Even Rose. So this is all getting undone, yeah? There's no way they killed off Kate, Rose, um, I forget the Colonel's name, but no, not Colonel. Whichever one is constantly see that unit. Okay, Mrs. Flood. Time to. Then you better start praying. Yes, who are you? Well, whoever and whatever Mrs. Flood is, she's not immune to Sutek's powers. It is a Theotardus. Now, I never actually saw any of the things related to that, but I did hear someone say, I think it was Who Culture as usual, say that that was a also apparently the person who voices Sutek also voiced the Beast in Satan Pit. Oh, he's been there the entire. Fuck. He's killing all of time. That's a fair question. Why hasn't he killed the doctor before? Because the doctor's the only one to have stopped. Well, other than his own father. Is that all the old Sonics? Interesting. 66 meters is also where the camera for. Killed the Earth. Hey! The dust cloud has almost hit me. And you can't exactly go back in time because you touch down, another one's gonna be there too. Unless, of course. See, that's the problem with time travel and the way this show portrays it. His future is not fixed. So something can die multiple times. I mean, there would have been a lot more that he didn't touch if it wasn't for the flux, but they haven't mentioned. It's like the one thing they haven't touched upon still. Hmm. If this is what I think it is, I was expecting that to happen. Yeah, I don't know what the spoon was. I thought it was going to be a fob watch. Hmm. Uh oh. Everything. They keep cutting over to Mel. Ah, it's Epic William. Remember your other life. But you have. But can you land in 2046? That's fucking creepy. And he can't he can't find Ruby because he can't find her family line to be able to see her. Again, this has furthered my expectations because I thought Mel was going to dust in the TARDIS when she forgot something and was saying she was tired. Hmm. Well, I mean, at least she can't see the computer. No matches. Also, why are you able to bring snow if you're completely human? Isn't this also what the maestro wanted to do? Wanted to steal the music of all the people so that the world became silent? Well, hot, cold, radioactive, dead, everything. That is what Morris said. He did say a whistle would come in handy. Are you dropping him into the vortex again? You're not holding. He's tearing the time vortex. Hey, even the Blinks survived. He's back too. I was not expecting that. What are you, Mrs. Flood? But here's the question: can you bring back the stuff that Sutek didn't kill? Time to clip the lead. Because I must kill. Quick question. What happens if you kill Death? Surely killing the thing that has the domain over the metaphysical concept of death is not going to have some negative ramifications? Still recruited everyone. You would have been called Ruby anyway. Can I help you? The doctor knew this was goodbye. Probably not. I mean, to be fair, he has seen a whole lot of old companions in the recent years. So, well, at least he didn't destroy the roof this time. Hey, she finally has her cuppa. What in the Mary fucking Poppins was that? Well, I mean, there has always been that joke of Mary Poppins being a Time Lord, so for her to be up on the roof with an umbrella and a bag, eh, not an unfair comparison. So that was a very, very interesting episode. Um, I am definitely going to let myself sit with this, as I do with most finales, because I have a week to upload this, so I will be back with extra thoughts on that. But yeah, I can't really think of anything to say because, well, I did say a lot while reacting, and like, I don't want to say it was a simple fix for Sutek, but it did help. Like, things set up in this episode were the key to ending Sutek with the whole basically infinite rope thing to drag him into the time vortex. If you bring death to death, you get life. See, that's the issue with things like that. Is, well, because it's such a abstract concept. You can't really wrap your head around exactly what it is that means. Like, the human brain is not meant to be able to comprehend the death of death. And I joked about, oh, I hope killing the figurehead of death doesn't have any adverse effects on reality, because in every form of media where you have a figurehead of death, if you were to kill said figurehead, they either get replaced by someone, and how exactly do you replace a god? Or death stops being a thing, in which case that also is an issue. So, yeah. So what does that mean? That now that they've killed Sutekh, like, which is it going to be? Is there going to be a new figure raised up to be the god of death and all that? Does the concept of, do these metaphysical concepts exist without their god? Is it like, these are the core functions of the universe, and these gods are just there to oversee them? Or do they physically control them and birth them, and that concept is tied to their being? Like, another god that I didn't touch upon because I didn't know about it in the last episode is the Mara, which is another classic Doctor Who from, I don't know which doctor had Adric, but this was the god of beasts. Took the form of a giant snake in that. And yeah, like, they didn't kill it, I don't think. Yeah. Hosts of the Mara develop a snake marking on their arm and had reddened eyes and teeth, sort of like with what happened with the acolytes of Sutekh. I don't think the marks themselves could become real Mara, developing like a rash. So there's nothing to say that the Mara was killed, so therefore beasts still exist. None of the other gods have ever been killed, I don't think. Like, the Trickster was trapped, the Maestro was banished. No, the Toymaker was trapped. I don't know what happened to the Trickster. All I know is that apparently the child on the Sarah Jane Adventures was meant to be, in the season after it finished, was meant to be revealed as having been put in place by the Trickster. And there is a concept image of that kid with a Trickster face. So obviously they still exist. So what happens if you kill a god? The simplest answer is there, and in the way that the Doctor killed Sutekh, is that his essence gets spread throughout the time vortex, all throughout time and space. So while his physical form may be dead, the essence of death still exists all throughout time and space. But that's not how it's explained or anything. It is simply described as killing death. It's like, and I know some people are going to hate me doing this, but if I were to relate it to Marvel, the MCU. How after Thanos used the stones to snap half of existence away, by turning them into dust, um, yeah, he used the stones to reduce the stones to the atoms. And these were the six fundamental building blocks of the universe, and the atoms were then spread all throughout the universe. So while the physical was still there, was no longer there, they were still there in essence. Because you can never truly destroy anything. Matter can only be destroyed when it comes in contact with antimatter. I think that's what it is, and it has to be the specific anti of that matter. Like for every I don't even want to say atom because it's smaller than that of matter. There is an equivalent of antimatter, or theoretically, there is the equivalent of antimatter. And if they were to ever meet, both would be destroyed. And the reason that that doesn't happen is because there's an infinitesimal chance of that ever crossing because of how insanely small both are and how insanely large the universe is. So you can't truly destroy anything. So by that logic, Sutekh should still live. Well, live in essence, and the things that he is in charge of shouldn't be affected. I have been talking about this singular topic for longer than I usually do outros on my videos, so yes. And that's not even to get into the whole when he was on the planet with the lady and he asked if she had any metal. I thought there was a part of me that thought, oh, is this Susan? And she's going to pull out a fob watch, and yeah, that's why she can't remember things, because her memory and her Time Lord essence is in the Thingo. But no, it was just a random lady who just happened to have something that the Doctor could use to help focus the time window screen. And yeah, so I do wonder if they are ever going to commit to bringing her back, or if she's just going to be a looming thing. Like, they brought her up so much in this in this season, and yes, it was mostly for the Susan Triad misdirection in the last episode. Was they keep bringing her up? She must be important. So when it comes to the name Susan actually showing up as a character, it was effective in making everyone think, oh hey, we were able to catch on to this. This must be what's happening. And then for the twist of it being the wrong anagram. Because there's always a twist at the end. What the fuck is up with Mrs. Flood? Like, what did she say to Ruby's grandma? I have to jump back to that because she said something very interesting. When she was telling her to basically pray as the death wave hit them. It's like, and it's just loading. Hmm. I went a little too far. Tell your maker I will come to storm down his gates of gold and seize his kingdom in my true name. When asking Cherry if she prays, so what is her deal? She's basically said a threat against God or whatever religion that Cherry believes in, because they didn't say what it was. It just says, "Tell your maker I will." You see maker gates of gold in that, and you automatically assume heaven. So, I guess that's probably the best way to leave it. She has basically said a threat against God, and we got no answers about what Mrs. Flood is, but a whole lot more questions this season. So I'm guessing that is going to be the overarching thing of Nshuti's run as the Doctor. And yes, I did actually find out you are meant to pronounce the N in his name, because there was the funny thing where there was the Q&A with him and Millie, and she's like, "How do you pronounce this?" He's like, "Oh, I've said my whole life it's Shu T, as in shoe and tea." And after I said that on an interview, I got a call from my mum. She's like, "That's not how you pronounce it. It's Shu T." So, yeah, you are actually meant to pronounce that. But I feel Mrs. Flood is going to be the overarching mystery of his entire thing. I also have a question, because we knew Miller Gibson wasn't coming back after this season, or at least for much. And we also know that I was seen on set photos, which this may be a spoiler, but the one who played the Officer Mundy in Boo, apparently she's coming to be the next companion. Yet, and I don't know if this is just set photos from Boom, but there were photos of Millie, Mundy's actress, and the Doctor all together in completely different outfits. So I thought it was going to be a sort of passing the torch thing at the start of the next season, where Millie's there for maybe 1 or 2 episodes before we get the next companion on their own. Also, I do find it funny that canonically, Doctor and the 14th, not 14th, 14th, and Donna were just gallivanting off throughout this entire thing, which is why they weren't at Unit. I forget if they were on a mission or off world or something, but they're just they're not in London. So they can't be in Unit to interact with them. So, we can't bring them back. Which, good on them for not showing them, for having the restraint, because bringing them in would have been a big thing and might have overshadowed some of this episode had they actually just brought them in. I reckon Rose was enough, even though she didn't do anything. Like, at the end of the last episode, it was everyone but essential personnel out of the command center, and Rose stayed. She was still there when Susan, as the acolyte, dusted everyone. Like, there was no real reason for her to be there other than just to say, look, she is still working at unit and everything. And not gonna lie, I did think when they were when they got undusted that Kate and what's his name? I always forget the soldier's name that we see all the time. I thought her and him were gonna share a kiss, which is what usually happens when things like this happen. And then, as they were all looking out over the rebirthed London, she did grab his hand, so maybe there is something going on there. And that could be explored in later seasons, or this apparent unit spin off that they're trying to do. So, who knows? Anyway, I've been waffling on for quite a bit. Now that I've gotten thoughts out, a lot more thoughts than I thought I had at the end of the episode, I don't know whether I'll be coming back or not. If I do, it'll be here. That was in fact not the last thing I have to say about this episode. So, now that I've had some time to sit and digest the finale properly, I do have to ask how the whole always being attached to the TARDIS thing works with Sutekh. Like, there have been so many times where the TARDIS has crossed its own time stream. Does that mean that there were 2 or more Sutekhs even every time this happened? Or in the case of when the Doctor time-locked Gallifrey, 9 of them in one place? Because remember, this started with the 4th, so 4 through 12 is 9. What about when 15 split the TARDIS into 2 in order to leave one with 14? Did that come with its own Sutekh as well? Or when the TARDIS turns into a person in the Doctor's wife, I think it is? How did she not know about the giant space dog that was just hanging off of her for centuries at that point? Or when the TARDIS exploded and created the cracks in the universe with Matt Smith, what happened to Sutekh then? Or when Jack or anything else was held onto the outside of the TARDIS, how did they not physically notice him? Like how people can still interact with the TARDIS or the older Ruby or other things with perception filters, yet no one noticed this giant dog. Also, there's still no real explanation as to why Sutekh decided now was the time to reveal himself, when there were arguably so many better times, like when the Doctor was basically defeated. Sutekh could have just taken that chance to finish him off and finish the universe at the same time. But honestly, all of these could be answered if they said that a part of Sutekh latched onto the TARDIS each time. Like, when he was tossed into the time vortex, he split his essence, like what seemingly happened at the end of the episode, where he basically disintegrated, and you can assume that his body was sent all throughout time and space. If that happened the first time, then a piece of it attaching to the TARDIS and then shedding off every time it went through the time vortex, and only now has enough of him, or possibly all of him, been freed from there so he's able to take this physical form. They could have even said that those parts of him that shed off were the Susan Twist characters, giving him an active link to all of time and space through them, which they basically did say that latter point, but I feel this would have been more clearer how he has that link. there's also the fact that this finale still doesn't give any answers about 73 yards. And it even raises more questions with the fact that the time window hooked up to Ruby's memories and everything was able to pull memories from a future version of Ruby in an isolated time stream that then got erased, which was the Roger Williams TV interview. Like, sure, she's been remembering things from that timeline somehow, but for something else to physically pick up on that just raises even more questions about what the hell happened there. And the final thing, this is actually the final thing I want to touch upon, is my speculations about Mrs. Flood's final words and what they were referring to. Basically, when she said, "This is the end of the story of the church on Ruby Road. Ruby's life ended all happy, but the doctor's, well, he's not going to have such a happy ending." Because I've heard people say that she's talking about the definitive end to the Doctor, like the final incarnation's death. Whereas I took it more of a "he will knock 4 times" sort of prophecy, where it refers to that specific Doctor, meaning Nshuti's Doctor will regenerate because of some horrific event causing his death. Also, not entirely related, but felt I should point out, I never picked up on the fact that apparently, throughout all of Mrs. Flood's appearances, she was wearing different companion outfits. Like, apparently, in this episode, it was similar to Clara's, and she calls him Clever Boy. At the end, it was Romana's, and just different companions for different appearances. So it also raises more questions about who is she to have such intimate knowledge about the Doctor's life and be able to transcend the reality of the screen. But yeah, those were the last notes that I could pick up in the last 2 days, having digested it, having seen other people reacting to it and everything. These are just what I put together as the final important pieces. But I guess with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one.